Hello guys, long time no see. It's a brand new chapter here. We'll study about meiosis and sexual life cycles. You will see a lot of different terms such as inheritance or heredity, okay, variation, genetics. So yes, let's get started. Just before starting, like our parents look different from us, okay? They look completely stranger from us, okay? They but in some people, or we can say in the family members, we can say like we often see that like they share some features such as face eye color, face, hair type. Okay, these are things called traits. Okay, physical feature or mental features, you can say these are traits. And these traits, when passed down to the children from parents, these traits is called what? Inheritance or heredity. But like children are not the exact same copies of their parents. Even parents and sisters don't look exactly the same. Along with the similarity, there is thing called variation, which means that difference in traits, differences in traits. A long time ago, when scientists are researching about these, like how these similarities and difference happen, they find the answer in the 20th century through the development of a thing called genetics, which we'll study in this chapter mainly. So, what are genetics? Okay, which it simply means like how traits are passed from parents to children. Traits being passed, or we can say parents to children. Why individual look similar but not identical? Identical means nearly same. And third thing was how differences variation appear. How variation or differences appear. In this unit, you will learn about the genetics on different levels, such as whole whole organisms, cells, molecules. Okay. The first step to understand how chromosomes are passed from parent to child in organisms that reproduce sexually. Parents to child that reproduce sexually. For this thing to happen, there are two important processes called as meiosis and fertilization. Okay, it's a special type of cell division like that produces sperm and egg cells. Sperm and egg cells. Okay, it produces, and also it reduces the chromosome number in half. Reduces chromosome 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 number in half, so that offspring have the correct chromosome unit. Fertilizer and what happens is sperm and egg cells come together, join, form a new organism. These two processes keep the chromosome number stable across generation. The question arises is like why are some children, or like why are some say why children are similar but not identical? It is because there is two things, meiosis and fertilization. Together, like they create genetic variation. Which is why like family members look resemble to each other, but still they are unique. They are different. Okay, together they create genetic variation, difference in genes. That's why they resemble a little bit, but completely unique or different. So, like our main question arises is, what do offspring actually inherit? To answer this, when people say you have mom's eyes or you have dad nose, it doesn't mean like your parents physically gave you eyes or nose. Okay, it instead of this you inherit something smaller, much smaller, but more important, which is known as genes. You inherit genes. Okay, genes, the real inherited material. So what usually happens is, the parent pass down the genes to the children in a unit of hereditary information, in tiny units of hereditary information. Hereditary. These genes are biological connection to your parents and explain why family members look alike, like having similar eye color, hair texture, or freckles. Okay, genes do not clearly like the trait. Instead, like give a given instructions, such as like how your body develops from fertilized egg to a grown adult. So like genes do not give you directly the trait. Okay, they give you instructions that guide your body how to develop from fertilized egg into a grown adult. Now the thing arises are genes, how genes like carry information to one parent to like to the child. It is done in the form of DNA. Okay, a long molecule which is made up of building blocks called nucleotides. Nucleotides. Okay, think of DNA as a language of letters. For example, a sequence of letters makes word. A sequence of nucleotides makes a gene. A sequence of nucleotides make a gene. Nee, nee, nee. You know how genes produce traits now. The most genes give instruction to like make protein. Genes give instruction to make proteins. These proteins, in furthermore, do the job inside a cell, which which makes you similar. For example, your height, hair type. Okay, so what happens? DNA to proteins, protein to traits. Now, how the genes are passed on? Okay, for the traits to be inherited, for traits to be inherited, the thing called DNA must be copied. Cell duplicate DNA to a process called DNA replication. I told you earlier about the previous chapter. DNA replication. So each gene is copied there. Now in animal and plants, there are special cells which call name as gametes, sperms and eggs. These are the things like which carry the genes to the next generation. To next generation. Okay. During fertilization, the sperm and egg combine and pass genes from the parent to offspring. During fertilization, sperm and egg combine together and then pass genes from parents to offspring, which means the child or children. Now, where the genes are stored? Genes are stored in what? Chromosome. Chromosome are found in nucleus. Okay, it is found in nucleus. Okay, I've told you earlier like humans have 46 chromosome. Okay, in more body cells, somatic cells, and only the cells which are like which don't participate in the sexual reproduction are called gametes. Okay, gametes. Okay, so now each chromosome has a long DNA molecules. Okay, which is wrapped around proteins. For example, chromosome. Okay, it has a long DNA molecule. It is wrapped around proteins. These are made of protein. Like it is wrapped and completely coiled. So one chromosome can hold hundred and thousands of genes. Chromosome hold hundreds or thousands of genes. To find the exact position of the gene on a chromosome, okay, the thing is called as locus, which means specific point where the gene is present on the chromosome. Okay, now locus means in simple word place. Now you know your genome is a full set of DNA, genome, full set of DNA. Okay, you inherited from your parent. It includes all 46 chromosomes plus small amounts of DNA in mitochondria and chloroplast in plant cell. Chloroplast in plant cell. Mitochondria. Yeah. The only the only process where like organisms reproduce asexually make the offerings exact copies of their parents, which is done in asexual reproduction. In this, only one parent is involved. Okay, no fusion of egg and sperm, gametes. For example, single parent like yeast copies his DNA and split into two. Copies his DNA, split into two. Yes, this is done by mitosis. Okay, and this resulted into almost identical to the parent. The offering almost identical to the parent. This results into making a clone. Okay, now the variation don't happen here. For variation to happen, there is a thing called mutation, random changes in DNA, and for this to happen, there's a thing called sexual reproduction. In this reproduction, there are two parents. Okay, each parent contributes half of the genes, so the offspring get a mix of genes from their both parents. Okay, so the result is like the child is or the offering is not identical to the parents, and also the similarities, they share similarities like family resemblance, but they look and behave differently. This creates genetic variation. This come from, I told you earlier, meiosis and fertilization. Now stay tuned for next part.